Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today I want to be talking about tritone substitutions and how to use them in a way where it doesn't just sound like you putting a chord just for the sake of substituting a chord. And I want to do that over a tune called All the Things You Are. So if you haven't checked that out, just go to the real book, get the chart, but first listen to it, okay, and try to learn by ear. So yeah, but I will be putting up a sheet of the actual song, so follow along as best as you can. This is a more intermediate to advanced lesson. Let me know in the comments if you want me to do a bit of a beginner lesson, and I'm happy to do that. So let's get right on to the lesson. Okay, that was just more or less an idea of how I use these tritone substitutions in a musical way. I just want to take 1.5 minutes just to explain to you what exactly a tritone is. So a tritone is basically when you've got your chord 5 or any secondary dominant chord, you substitute it with a chord that is a tritone way. And a tritone is basically a flattened fifth interval. So if I'm in the key of C major, for instance, okay, the chord 5 would be this, right? That would be G7. But now if I want to substitute with the tritone, I will go a flattened fifth away. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I flatten the fifth. When I flatten, I go down by a half step. So, which means it will be D7. As opposed to it'll be so that's the idea. And the reason why it works is because the 5 and the tritone share chord tones. For G7, this is the 7th, this is the 3rd. For D flat, which is the tritone sub, this is the 3rd and this is the 7th, and they both lead nicely to the chord 1. Okay, so the song All the Things You Are it starts on the chord 6 and it goes to the chord 2, then it goes to the 5, then to the 1, to the chord 4, and then it modulates to C major, which happens to be a major third apart from the home key. Okay, so let's just work with this first part. When you use these tritone substitutions, most of the time it happens over a 2-5 progression, okay, or just any 5 to the next chord. The chord can be a secondary dominant, or it can also be a primary dominant. But these tritone substitutions can also happen before major chords, which essentially will just be the 5 of the major chords. So in the beginning I did now what I'm doing here, well, you know, for the F minor, what tends to happen is that we change the F to F dominant, because coincidentally that will also be the 5 of B minor. So in harmony we're always trying to create a push-pull, tension-release sort of situation. So the best thing to do is to always try to find opportunities where you can add the 5 to the next chord. So the chord that I'm approaching is B flat minor. So here I'm on F minor. I'm thinking to myself, why not just change this to F7, because that will take me to the to the next chord, to chord 2. Okay, so I'll just do, but now instead of doing F7, I'll do the tritone sub for that, and I'll make it B7. Okay, and if you're asking me what tensions, I think the question here is always which tensions to use when I use tritone substitutions, because sometimes they can tend to sound dry, you know. If I'm just doing it a plain 7th and 3rd, which is fine, you can do that. But my best answer for you for that, as it pertains to tensions, I would say that whatever tensions you were finding in your original chord 5, they'll probably also work for the tritone sub. Most of the time though, with tritone substitutions, sharp 11s is the way to go. Sharp 11s, there's just something about sharp 11s and tritone substitutions that really work well together. And I think because a lot of the time the sharp 11 tension itself is a chord tone of the note, the chord that we are approaching. Perhaps it's the 5th. Most of the time I think it's the 5th. So if I have, that's a sharp 5, or what did I say? A sharp 4, sharp 11, or flat 5. Do you see that? Here we've got a sharp 11 as well, or flat 5. Sharp 11 as well. And the sharp 11 tends to be actually the 5th of the chord that we are approaching. This is just something that I've found out for myself while playing. This was the sharp 11, which becomes the 5. This is the sharp 11, becomes the 5. Yeah, I didn't really put a substitution here. I guess I could. But to me, orally, it doesn't really sound like it wants to do that, so I just kept it. The main thing to remember is that you want to add the tensions that would have belonged to the chord 5. Most of the time that will work. But also, tritone substitutions work really, really super when you add sharp 11s, or flat 5 is the enharmonic name for that. When you add sharp 11s, it works really well. Now, the other thing that I want to talk to you about is adding the 2. This can create even more interest when you're doing a chord substitution. So as opposed to just doing the alternate chord 5, which is the tritone, you can take the 5 of the tritone and add its 2. So something like this. So here I did. What would the 5 of B7 be if I have? I was actually literally just trying that up, and that actually sounds like a vibe. I had never actually done the F sharp. But if you like that sound, I guess it can work. Even this. And yeah, I'm just walking up the major scale. And then 5, 2, 1. So the second part of all the things you are, then it goes to the chord C minor. It actually modulates to E flat major here, so this is chord 6 of E flat major, and it does basically the same thing. Another modulation to G major. Now for this part, we also want to do the 5 exactly like how we do. So yeah, I did C minor to C sharp minor because I'm adding the tritone. So okay, let me just back up a bit. So I did C minor, we are approaching F minor, right? But I want to approach F minor by its 5. So the 5 of F minor would be C7 essentially, especially the alt. An altered chord, type of altered chord, mainly sharp 5 and sharp 9. Usually works best when you're going to a kind of a 2 chord. But now I'm doing the same thing here. I'm going to do the tritone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, flat 5. This would be the tritone. So I go. You see what I'm doing? Yeah, I'll do the same thing. And I think also it works really well for All the Things You Are, because All the Things You Are is basically made up of, the melody is made up of chord tones. So when the melody is made up of chord tones, it actually makes the reharm a little bit easier. Because when you reharm, essentially you use chords that have relationships to the original chords. So if they are chord tones, it makes it much easier. Because when chords have relationships to each other, they usually share the same chord tones. Yeah, so this is the whole song. So that's the gist of what I wanted to talk about. So you could try it over different tunes like Autumn Leaves, I think probably will work. I don't like this game. This is the tritone of D7. What am I doing? Okay, I hope you found this one useful. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments. Yeah, I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.